In this video, we're going to solve 6 classic torque and rotational dynamics problems. To solve these problems, we'll be using this problem-solving checklist. Step 1, we'll identify the system. Step 2, we'll choose the pivot, also known as the axis of rotation. Step 3, we'll draw a diagram. We'll also be indicating the positive direction. Step 4, we'll be applying the rotational version of Newton's second law, which is the net torque is equal to the moment of inertia times the angular acceleration. We'll also substitute for torque RF sine theta as needed, and step 5 will solve for the unknown. Question 1. A uniform horizontal rod of length L and mass M is hinged to a wall at one end. A light cable is attached to the free end of the rod and makes an angle theta above the rod. The system is in static equilibrium. Find the tension in the cable. Find the magnitude of the hinge force. Step 1 will be to identify the system. Our system will be this rod. Step 2 will be to choose our pivot. Our pivot will be this hinge right here, also known as the axis of rotation. Step 3, we're going to draw a force diagram. We want to indicate all the forces that's causing a torque on this rod here. Because this rod has mass, it's going to have a gravitational force pulling down on it, so we have mg. The other force exerting a torque on the rod is going to be the tension force. Now, the tension force is at an angle, and only the perpendicular component of the tension force will be exerting a torque. And because this component is opposite of theta, it's going to be t sine theta. We're going to define our positive direction in the counterclockwise direction. Next, we're going to use the rotational version of Newton's second law, which is that the net torque is equal to the moment of inertia times the angular acceleration. I is the moment of inertia, but also known as the rotational inertia. Since the rod isn't moving, the angular acceleration is going to be 0. So the net torque is equal to 0. So now we're going to add up all the torque in the positive direction minus all the torque in the negative direction and set that equal to 0. The torque in the positive direction, the counterclockwise direction, is going to be L, which is the length of the rod, times t sine theta, which is the perpendicular component of the force, minus L over 2, which is the distance from the hinge or our pivot to the center of mass of the rod, times the force perpendicular to the rod, which is just the gravitational force. The L's will cancel out, and that gives us t sine theta is equal to mg over 2. And then solving for tension, we can divide sine on both sides, and we get that tension is equal to mg divided by 2 sine theta. Next, we're going to solve for the hinge force. The hinge force has both a x component as well as a y component. The x component of the hinge force will be balancing out the x component of the tension force, and the y component of the hinge force will balance out the weight of the rod as well as the y component of the tension force. We're going to define the positive x direction to the right and positive y direction up. Because the rod is not moving, it's not accelerating, the net force in the x direction will be equal to 0. The net force in the x direction will be hx minus t cosine theta, and that will be equal to 0. We're going to isolate hx, which will be equal to t cosine theta. We previously solved for tension, and we take that value and substitute that in here. We get that hx, the x component of the hinge force, is equal to mg cosine theta divided by 2 sine theta. Now we're going to analyze the vertical forces. So in the y direction, we have mg, the gravitational force pulling down on the rod. We also have the y component of the tension force, which is t sine theta. And then we have the y component of the hinge force, which is what we're solving for. Because the rod is not moving, it's not accelerating, the net force in the y direction is equal to 0. The net force in the y direction is t sine theta plus hy minus mg, and all of that is equal to 0. Isolating hy, we get that hy is equal to mg minus t sine theta. And we've previously solved for the tension force in part A, so we can substitute that in here, and we get that hy is equal to mg minus mg over 2 sine theta times sine theta. The sine theta will cancel out, and that gives us hy is equal to mg minus mg over 2, and we can simplify that to mg over 2. Next, we're going to use Pythagorean theorem to combine the two components, hx and hy, to find the magnitude of the hinge force. So we have h squared is equal to hx squared plus hy squared. To solve for the hinge force, we can square root both sides. So the hinge force is equal to the square root of hx squared plus hy squared. Substituting our hx and hy, we get that the magnitude of the hinge force is equal to the square root of mg cosine theta divided by 2 sine theta. All of that is squared plus mg over 2, and all of that is squared. Question 2. A uniform seesaw of length L and mass m is supported at a pivot that is a distance x from its center on the same side as mass m1. A mass m1 sets a distance d1 from the pivot on one side, and a mass m2 sets a distance d2 from the pivot on the opposite side. The seesaw is horizontal and at rest. Find the relationship between m1, m2, d1, d2, m, and x. First, we're going to identify our system, which is the seesaw. Second, we're going to pick our pivot, which is this point here, our axis of rotation. Third, we're going to draw our diagram. We're going to draw all the forces that are exerting a torque on the seesaw. We're going to start with the weight of this seesaw, and because it's a rigid body, not a point mass, we're going to treat it as if all the forces acting at the center of mass. We'll label this force mg. It's a distance of x amount away. The other forces exerting a torque are m1, which will label this gravitational force m1g, and m2 will label that force m2g. m1g is d1 distance away from the axis of rotation, and m2g is a distance of d2 away from the axis of rotation. We will define counterclockwise as positive. Next, we're going to use the rotational version of Newton's second law, which states that the net torque is equal to the rotational inertia times the angular acceleration. Because the seesaw is not rotating, has no angular acceleration, we can set the angular acceleration to 0, and we get the net torque is equal to 0. The net torque will be m1g times d1 minus mg times x minus m2g times d2, and all of that is equal to 0. We'll divide g on both sides, and we get m1 d1 minus mx minus m2 d2 is equal to 0. We're going to isolate m1 d1, and we get that m1 d1 is equal to m2 d2 plus mx. Question 3. Two masses, m1 and m2, hang from a light string over a pulley of radius r and moment of inertia I. The string does not slip and the pulley's axle is frictionless. m1 is greater than m2. Find the angular acceleration alpha of the pulley. Our system for this problem will be the pulley, and the axis of rotation will be at the center of this pulley. You'll notice that there is a string wrapped around the pulley, and on the left-hand side, the string is exerting a tension force, which is exerting a torque on the pulley, and on the right-hand side, the string has a tension force, and it's also exerting a tension force on the pulley, but it's going to be in the clockwise direction. Next, we're going to draw the force diagram for the two masses. So for m1, there's a gravity force pulling it down, which we'll label m1g, and there's a tension force pulling it up. We'll label that T1. For m2, there's a gravity force pulling it down. We'll label that m2g, and a tension force pulling it up. We'll label that T2. We will define counterclockwise as positive, and you'll see that T1 is exerting a torque on the pulley in the positive direction, and T2 is exerting a torque on the pulley in the counterclockwise or in the negative direction. We're going to first analyze the forces in the vertical direction, and then we'll look at the forces in the rotational direction. So for the vertical direction, we can use that the net force is equal to ma. We'll first analyze the forces for m1. So the net force equal ma equation for m1 will be m1g minus T1 is equal to m1a. And if we apply Newton's second law to m2, we get T2 minus m2g is equal to m2a. We're going to bracket this, and we're going to use this later on to solve this problem. Now we're going to use the rotational version of Newton's second law, which is the net torque is equal to the rotational inertia times the angular acceleration. The net torque is T1r minus T2r, and all of that is equal to I times alpha. We're going to factor out the r, and we get T1 minus T2 times r is equal to I times the angular acceleration. We're going to substitute for T1 and T2 from what we solved earlier. So if we rewrite this equation for the forces acting on M1, we get that T1 is equal to M1G minus M1A. And for T2, if we rearrange this equation, we get T2 is equal to M2G plus M2A. We're going to take these and substitute into this equation, and we get M1G minus M1A minus M2G minus M2A times R is equal to I times alpha. We can rewrite this as M1 minus M2 times GR, so we just factor out GR here, minus M1 plus M2 times AR, we just factor out the AR here, and that is equal to I times alpha. We're going to isolate this M1 minus M2 GR. So we're going to add this term on both sides. So M1 plus M2 times AR, we're going to add that on both sides, and we get this expression here. Now you'll notice that there is an acceleration and there's also an angular acceleration. In this problem, we're looking for the angular acceleration. So we need a way to connect the acceleration and the angular acceleration. And we'll be doing that using a bridging equation, which just states that the acceleration is equal to the alpha times r. This is super useful when you're solving these type of problems and you're trying to bridge between translational motion and rotational motion. So after doing this substitution, we get m1 minus m2 times gr, which is equal to I alpha plus m1 plus m2 times alpha r squared. We are looking for alpha, or the angular acceleration. So on the right hand side, we're going to factor out the alpha, and then we're going to divide both sides by I plus m1 plus m2 times r squared, and we get that the alpha is equal to m1 minus m2 times gr divided by I plus m1 plus m2 times r squared. Question 4. A rigid disk of radius r and moment of inertia I is free to rotate about a fixed frictionless axis through its center. The disk is initially at rest. Two forces act on the disk. A force F1 is applied at the rim at an angle theta to the radius. A force F2 is applied at the rim in the opposite direction tangent to the disk. Find the net torque on the disk, the angular acceleration of the disk, and the direction of rotation, clockwise or counterclockwise. Our system is going to be this disk, and our axis of rotation is the center of this disk. Now we're going to draw the forces exerting a torque on this disk. First, we have F1. So F1 is pushing this disk at an angle, and remember that only the perpendicular component of the force is exerting a torque, and we'll label that F1 perpendicular. And we have F2 also exerting a torque on this disk, but it's in the opposite direction, and we're going to label this force as F2. Just as a reminder that torque is equal to RF sine theta. Because this force is at an angle, we're going to have to use that sine theta to calculate the torque. The rotational version of Newton's second law is that net torque is equal to I times alpha. So applying the RF sine theta, we get RF1 sine theta minus RF2 is equal to I times the angular acceleration. We don't have sine theta here because it's 90 degrees, and sine 90 degrees is just 1. Next, we're going to isolate alpha, and by dividing I on both sides, and we get that the angular acceleration is equal to RF1 sine theta minus RF2 divided by I. If we factor out the R, we get R times F1 sine theta minus F2 all over I. Part 3 of the question is asking for the direction of the rotation. Is it clockwise or counterclockwise? I'm going to assume that the disk is initially at rest. So if the disk is initially at rest, if F1 sine theta is greater than F2, then the disk will rotate counterclockwise. If F1 sine theta is less than F2, then the disk will rotate clockwise. And if F1 sine theta is equal to F2, then it will not rotate at all. It will have no angular acceleration. Question 5. A door of width L rotates about hinges on one side. A force F is applied at a point a distance x from the hinges, but the force is applied at an angle theta relative to the door's surface, so the force is not necessarily perpendicular. Assume that the door's moment of inertia about the hinge is I. Find the magnitude of the torque on the door about the hinges, the angular acceleration of the door, and how the angular acceleration changes as x increases. Our system is this door, and our pivot or our axis of rotation is this green dot right here. And we have a force pushing on this door, and it's at an angle. It's not perpendicular. It's going to be at an angle. And the force is exerted a distance of x away from the axis of rotation. Torque is defined as the R times F sine theta. And for this problem using the given variables, we get that the torque is equal to x times F sine theta. To calculate the angular acceleration, we could take this torque and set it equal to I times the angular acceleration. There's only one torque, so we don't really have to worry about the net torque. And dividing I on both sides, we can isolate alpha, and we get that alpha, or the angular acceleration, is equal to x f sine theta divided by I. You'll notice that from this equation that the alpha and the x are directly proportional. So as the x increases, the angular acceleration will also increase. As x decreases, the angular acceleration will also decrease. Question 6. Given a disk of radius r and moment of inertia I starts from rest, a constant tangential force F is applied at the rim for time t. Find the angular speed omega after time t. Our system here is the disk, and the axis of rotation is at the center of this disk, and we have a tangential force, which just means that the force and the r are 90 degrees. In this problem, we're looking for the angular speed, so not only are we thinking about the forces and the torque here, but we're also going to be using rotational kinematic equations to solve for this problem. Torque is RF sine theta, but because theta is 90 degrees, sine theta equals 1. So torque is equal to RF, and the rotational version of Newton's second law tells us that the net torque is equal to the rotational inertia times the angular acceleration. We're going to isolate alpha, the angular acceleration, by dividing I on both sides, and we get that alpha is equal to RF divided by I. Now we're going to apply rotational kinematics. So we're going to use omega final equals omega initial plus alpha times t. The omega is the angular velocity. The initial angular velocity is 0, and we can substitute the alpha from what we just solved. We get that the final angular velocity is equal to RFT divided by I. If you found this video helpful, check out my next video where I go over 6 classic rotational energy and momentum problems.